If you're anything like me, you're probably obsessed with Halloween. We normally get at least 20 trick-or-treaters on the night, and they're given plenty of treats and goodies because that's how it should be. You're also probably massively into board games if you clicked onto this, so let's take a look at some of the spookiest the tabletop has to offer, starting with number 10, Mysterium. This had to be on the list because it's so different to everything else on here. You play as mediums trying to solve a murder. Akin to something like Cluedo, you find clues, in this case cards given to you by the ghost, which cannot talk, but these things are very abstract to say the least. You could focus on one part, for example, it being a red cardigan, meaning old, and completely miss something else, as the ghost tries to lead you to the killer until you fail and let everyone down and you are no longer invited to board game night. A true horror. If this video is any help or you want to see more tabletop content including miniature games, board games and card games, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell for the latest videos. In at number 9 though, we've gone for Dead of Winter. There had to be a zombie title or two in here somewhere, and for me this is one of my favourites. It does what the Walking Dead TV show and comics does well and combines the horror of zombies with those humans around you. Sure, you could get bitten on a supply run in this game, but it's as likely somebody at your compound is tanking missions, meaning you don't have enough food for the round and now you've got to say goodbye to that lovely mall Santa that you've grown so close to. But who could it be? You start to doubt your friends, but at least you can rely on good old trustworthy Rodney, right? Number 8, I've gone for Ghost Stories. In this title, you play as a group of warrior monks who must defend their village from evil spirits. Now, as these warriors, you do get special powers and a whole host of tools to deal with the ghosts, which makes the horror feel less. But it doesn't feel that way when you play it. It's quite a hopeless game in which hordes of ghosts are crashing against the village constantly, and a lot of times you will end up losing. We've definitely lost more than we've won, which, since it's Halloween, feels very fitting. Number 7, I've gone for Fury of Dracula. Now, I did only play this title once, and it was a very long time ago, but I remember really enjoying it, and I've seen some playthroughs since, and I think it definitely deserves a place somewhere on this list. Basically, you're playing as vampire hunters as one of your friends plays Dracula, running around Europe causing mayhem. It feels a little like a Scooby-Doo episode, but who doesn't love Scooby-Doo? In at number 6, I've gone for Jaws. Another hidden movement 1 vs all game. I would say a lot of similarities to Fury of Dracula in gameplay, but this time in water. And who doesn't love water? Except for most people when this movie came out. There's no doubt the movie was incredible and the board game is fun enough to emulate that. In the first part of the game, you're moving around the board as characters from the movie, trying to save swimmers and find the beast. One of you is Jaws, or Bruce as they called it. You play as Bruce himself, trying to evade capture as he gobbles up unsuspecting victims. Depending how they do in the first round can greatly affect the next, as you're now on a boat and Bruce is slowly tearing it apart. It's fun, it's sneaky, it's Jaws, what's not to love? In at number 5, I've gone for Betrayal at House on the Hill. So you're massively into horror but hate slashers. This game has got you covered. You hate ghosts or cults? This game has got you covered. Well, as long as you don't randomly draw that scenario, because in Betrayal, it's basically a smorgasbord of horror titles. Around 100 options for your story to develop into something completely new every time. It's a game I've played for a long time and very rarely experience the same story. It always starts the same though, a group of friends drawn into a haunted house, exploring, looking for useful items, and trying to work out why they're here. That all becomes apparent very quickly though, as usually one of the group is outed as a traitor. So if you're looking for an ever-changing dungeon crawling horror, this is the game for you. If you're liking the sound of the story-driven horror title, then stick around for number 1. But for now, number 4, Last Night on Earth. Very similar to some of the other titles I've already listed, you have a few options for a story as you run through this schlocky B-horror movie, playing the most stereotypical characters possible, but sometimes that's all you want on Halloween. I can't be the only person that loves throwing in a terrible movie like Wrong Turn and just sitting and enjoying how bad it is. As you run around the map, trying to accomplish your task, help save your friends, with the certainty there isn't a traitor this time. It's a nice feeling for a horror game. In at number 3, one of my favourite games of all time, Mansions of Madness. Again, comparisons can be drawn to Betrayal. I would say a much more advanced version, so if you're looking for something light and easy to digest, go for Betrayal. If you're ready to lose your mind in a well fleshed out story with some investigating of cults and monsters with your friends, go for Mansions of Madness. One of my favourite board games I've played, honestly. It came very close to us losing and I almost went mad doing it. Or maybe I did. You play as various investigators, which is all taking place on an app and the board at the same time, which tells you a story, adding a much needed lore and theme to proceedings. You reveal areas and dark twists as you move around the board, interacting with characters, items and places. It's a very unique experience and one I wholeheartedly recommend. Number 2, The Thing. I had to have this game on here. The Thing is my favourite movie of all time, encapsulating everything that is great about horror movies. The build-up of suspense, constant distrust, and not knowing who you believe, and always being on edge, never knowing what's going to happen next. The board game hits that on the head. You can't trust your friends, but you need them to survive. You have to send them on missions, else you'll run out of food or freeze to death. Whilst the alien is the true horror, the setting is everything in this game and the movie. You will die if you don't trust your friends, but if you trust the wrong friend, it's all that easier for the alien to assimilate you one by one. I could go on and on about this game, and I do think I will make my own video on it, much like I did for my number 1. So if you want to see me rave on about The Thing in a separate video, let me know in the comments below. But let's take a look at number 1. Now, if you've been following this channel for a while, you will know this is my favourite game of all time. I made a video specifically raving about it, and whilst I will always put The Thing as my favourite movie, Alien or Aliens are very close to that. They're definitely in the top 10. They hit all of those notes I love about The Thing, Jaws, and all my favourite horror movies. However, the advantage and maybe disadvantage Nemesis has, it takes you on an adventure and tells an unrivaled story. Now, the way it does that might be a disadvantage for some, as it's a very heavy game. There's a ton of different rooms, cards, abilities, items, and other things that happen. With the constant threat of aliens and the ship being diverted or engines not working, it is a very heavy game with a lot to do, so if you're not into that, maybe build up to it. I would say I think this rule set was easier to understand than The Thing, even though it is a much heavier game, so I will say I think it's easier to learn, so if you're going to pick one of the two, I would definitely go for Nemesis. But if you are into that anyway, I don't think you will find a better game. This is my favourite board game of all time, let alone just horror board game. Our first game is still a memory we talk about and recount to this day. It creates its own story and you get to live that out. As close to being in the Alien movie as you can get, you know, without actually being in the movie. But those are my top picks. As always, let me know yours in the comments below. No doubt I've missed some absolute classics. If you've enjoyed this video, leave me a like, and if you want to see more tabletop goodness, subscribe and ring that bell. That is all I've got for this episode though, so I will catch you in the next one.